Review agenda for addition, removals, or adjustments of any items. Are we going to hear from Eric today, Val? No. Okay. Okay, so we're going to do the.
I thought we were going to from them. Last 2 weeks ago, we were told we were going to have a report from them.
He was trying to get together with the legal committee, and I don't know. He said he didn't have everybody show up the other day, so he wasn't able to do what he wanted to do, I don't think.
And also, I hadn't received anything by Friday, so it wasn't clear to me that anything was really expected to be on the agenda.
Okay.
But they'll be on the agenda for next Monday.
Now, will you make Ian a co-host?
I did.
Okay, all right. Okay, so for all of you that are here, let's see, the Zoom meeting. So please, everybody mute yourself. And if you want to ask a question, either send a chat, raise your hand, or somehow get our attention and we will call on you. Public forum. This is a time for anybody, if they'd like to briefly share comments, anything that's not currently on the agenda. Okay. So this is the first informational meeting for the annual police district budget review. So for those that are on, this is just an informational meeting. We aren't voting on anything. Everything is done by Australian ballot. So if there's anything that anybody has questions on, please let us know. The town report is online. It's also down at town offices if you don't currently have a copy. Bruce, do you want to give a brief overview, or like what you had to raise, what you didn't raise, whether you level funded it?
Also, Michelle, just a quick note. The town reports are also at the post office. Somebody wants to get one there.
All right. Thank you, Sharon. Okay, Bruce.
Okay, so we pretty much level funded. I think we're up 2,000 over last year. No significant changes, unless somebody's got some questions.
Anybody have any questions regarding the police district budget?
Yes, I do. In the dark here.
Go ahead, John.
Sorry. I just wonder if we could produce numbers which would help everybody understand the budget a little bit more. Taking the number of payers in the police district and dividing the whatever 90% of the budget by those to get an average number of contribution to the police budget. And then of course, there's the school contributes. That's not a household, but then there's the $10,000 or so that the town contributes. And I think it would be very helpful for everybody to see what they're paying for police coverage or not paying. So I just wonder if that's a number we could, in future or even maybe this year, present to the public just as another way of looking at the budget.
So you're thinking before they get their tax bill, because when they get their tax bill, that number's on there.
Yes, it is for those of us inside the district, but not for everybody in town.
Okay. Right.
Everybody in town does pay. So people in the district pay, the bulk of it, and divided by how many households there are inside the district. And then the $10,000, and then the budget is rounded out by the 10K or so that the town pays, which everybody pays for, including people in the district have a share of that as well. So I think it would be provocative of discussion, not in a negative way, but it would be helpful for people to see, the average payer is paying X amount inside the district, and the person outside or the household outside is paying X. And I think that would facilitate a conversation going forward, just to have that way of slicing the pie. That's all.
Okay. Jen, is that something that we have or that can be easily figured right now, or probably not?
Well, so I just sent you a message just saying that it wouldn't necessarily be an accurate figure, because the police district's tax is done by assessed value, not by a population. And that's the,
Oh.
if I'm understanding what John's asking,
Yeah.
my understanding is that he wants to do it based on the number of people in the district, not by the assessed value.
Right.
Well, I
So
think
we create a
then there
tax
might be a
rate.
couple of ways to do it, and I'm not wedded to any one, but you know, I had at some point in the past taken the budget and divided it by the number. There's I can't remember the numbers. I wish I had it. I was looking for it before I got on, but you know, the number of tax-paying properties inside the district and the number of tax-paying properties outside the district. So, granted, it wouldn't be a number per house. It would be just taking the amount of the budget that's paid in district and divide that by the number of payers in district, and you get a number that's an average, and likewise outside the district. And then you'd have to add a little bit to the average for people inside the district, because we're also paying a portion of $10,000 that the town pays for police coverage. So we pay twice. That's going to come up to a number, you know, and I think it would be helpful for the public to understand what they're on the hook for police coverage, which I support. You know, I'm glad we're paying for the police, but it's helpful to understand what we're paying and who's paying what.
So I guess I'm confused because I'm not understanding. Are you talking about doing it by assessed value or by population? It seems like you're using two different
Not by
terms.
population, not by population, and not by assessed value. Just taking the amount of money that's paid from, you know, there's a number of taxed properties inside the district.
Yeah.
Take the budget amount paid by those people and divide it by the number of properties to get an average per property.
So Jen, I think, John, tell me if this is right. So like within the district, you're saying take the total of the budget and you're saying take out of it the $10,000 in the school and then divide that by the total number of taxpayers, you know, or lots.
Properties, yeah.
Yeah, like
properties
grand
that are
list
taxed.
within the grand list number. So
Right.
say there's 500 parcels within the police district, you would take the total budget, divide that by 500, and you would come up with a number.
Right, and then you have the other amounts. You have the $10,000 that the town contributes, which you divide by all properties in town because everybody
Right.
pays that.
Mhm.
And then you add that little bit to the people inside the district, and you get their total average number of figure paid. Again, it's of merely general informative importance. So
We can do that, John. I don't know how actually comparative it'll be to what you're paying in taxes, I guess would be my concern.
well, I mean, another way to do it then would be to do it by the tax rate, but that sounds like a more complicated.
It's actually a lot more accurate, and there is a page in the budget or in the book, I'm sorry, that has your tax rate comparison over the years, and everybody could take, I mean, you could take that, and if you wanted to figure out how much it would cost for everybody in the district with the same budget, there's, you know, the grand list figure that you could use for the entire town versus just the district, because the district has its own grand list value.
Right. I guess I don't want to do it that complicatedly. I just trying to get a handle on some presentation of how the police budget is paid and by whom within town.
So because it's done by assessed value, that means that what I pay versus what John pays could be very different, right?
Right. So that's why
And
I'm
so the
average it over the number of households or the number of properties. It just isn't going to give you a good, accurate representation of what you're actually paying. Whereas if you did it with the tax rate and you said every $100,000 pays X
Right.
amount towards taxes, people could get a guesstimate as to what they're paying, you know, per
Right.
100,000, which is typical when you're doing a bond vote or sometimes budgeting, depending upon what it is, when you say it's going to cost you this amount in taxes if you pay $100,000 on your home, $200,000, $300,000, etc.
Right. There's no clear, easy way to do it. So John, so what are you trying to, like, it seems like the way that you're suggesting isn't going to give you accurate numbers. And in fact, that number might be lower than what you actually pay. So for you, that might not be accurate.
Well,
So how would that help the rest of the community if it presents an inaccurate number, I guess?
Well, I think you present it as an average.
Okay.
If you take the total amount and you divide it by the number of payers, properties that pay, you get an average for what somebody in the district, a property in the district is paying an average of X. And, it's general. I understand it. It's not an effort to get an exact number of each property's paying X amount, but it's an average. And, it would be helpful to have that average, for public discussion purposes, I think.
Okay. I mean, it seems, Jen, you could do it both ways. We could present an average as well as do it by the per 100,000 or whatever.
Get that assistant to do it there, Jen.
Yes. You need to be part of the meeting over here.
I guess
Anyway, I don't need a final answer or anything. I
Yeah.
think it would be instructional and informative and interesting to be able to say, to see that number and
Yeah.
it would educate the public
John,
in some way.
I just did some quick figuring here on my calculator. There's roughly somewhere within maybe 3-4 dozen, about 3,900 people in Bristol last census. So if you take that divided by 39 or by $10,000, you divide that by 3,900 residents of the town. That's about $2.56 a person to protect the town, the 10,000 they give the police district.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
that's another way to slice it. I had done the math.
And then if you
Unfortunately, I have
take
a
the
new
properties,
computer.
you take the properties 17, there's about 1,700 parcels in the whole town. That includes the district. That figures up to about $5.88 a parcel of that 10 grand.
Yeah, but
Well-
if you're, how many are within how many parcels are within the district?
Without
I'm gonna
having
go
that
to my
grand list.
email and find this because
Yeah.
I did work
And-
this out
and-
once before.
And also, so we're using the correct numbers. It's 12,000. That's the town
12,000.
traffic police contract, and it's 18,750 for the school.
Yeah, but then you
I
get
mean, I
those
just
calculated.
subtracted those out of the total budget and then divided, I don't know how many parcels are in there, but by 500,
Right.
say there's 500 parcels within the district, that comes out to be about $910 per taxed parcel.
Yeah, I did this math based on the last budget, not this current budget, last summer. Valerie, you helped me do that. I'm just looking for that email. Here it is. So the total number of registered, let's see, wait. Number of properties townwide is 1,791, same year Vermont was founded as a state. And the number of properties in the police district is 611. 34.1% of the properties are within the police district. So, so you've got 34.1% of the properties in the town paying 80 or 90% of the police budget. That's going to be a high average. And then you've got the balance being paid by everybody, 1,791. That's going to be a small amount of the 10,000. It's just another way of crunching the numbers that I think might help us understand what we're doing in Bristol in terms of our obligations or our commitment to taking on, continuing the police district as it is.
Okay.
Thanks for the time. I'm going to stop
Thanks,
there.
John.
Sure.
Anybody else have any other questions for Bruce or on the budget? Okay. Shall we close the informational meeting for the police district then?
I had a question, sorry.
Go ahead, Krista.
Hi, sorry you can't see me, my video, my camera's not working. This might be I don't have the town report, and so you can just refer me to that if that's all included in there. But I was just wondering, it sounds like we're level funded. So I'm just wondering if that is reflective of our usage and if our staffing needs and overall department expenses are the same as they were last year, or if you, in the town report, is there a sense of like how many calls and how many traffic stops and how many, all of those things? Is that all in the report? Just wondering in general, we had a conversation, I guess maybe it was in the fall, about policing in Addison County and in Bristol. So I'm just trying to provide some context to what what we paid last year and what we're paying in this coming year for our police service, which we, greatly appreciate, but I just want to put it in the context of usage and like that larger dialogue about policing in our town.
To answer the question, Bruce, that wasn't in there this year. I knew in the past we've had that, but I don't think it's in the town report this year, is it?
The number of calls for service, yes, that's in there.
Is it?
It's close. I think we're probably 200 less calls for service this year compared to last year. Traffic stops, those are not in there, but that's something that if somebody wants to send me an email, I will research that and I can get that information.
And is our staffing the same as it was last year, Bruce?
Yes, the staffing is the same.
Okay.
Actually, your salary has gone down, Bruce, because of people leaving and people coming.
Yes,
That are at a
we've
different
replaced.
rate.
Yes, we've replaced the people that have replaced those that have left are getting a lesser hourly rate than the ones that were here.
And if I could just make one more comment and just thinking, holistically about what services we're paying for as a town. And, as a school board member, I'm keenly aware of the declining enrollment and the increasing taxes. And I'm just wondering if the select board thinks that there's some value at some point in just sort of looking at all of these different services and resources we have, not just the police budget, but the fire department, the schools, all of them as a whole, and where we're directing monies and giving the community opportunity to really grapple with that a little bit more, because I think that, these are looming challenges and we're having some really robust conversations about it at the school board level. And I see less robust conversations about the town resources, and just wondering where the place is for that.
I mean, I think as the board, we discussed this a lot amongst ourselves to try to keep the budget and the increases low. But anybody can come to the board during any meeting and talk about it. We're always open to hear, thoughts and comments about the budget and what can be changed or what can't be changed.
So if I can jump in quick, the informational meeting that we started, we plan on having the next one after town meeting. Obviously working on the budget, that took a little bit of time, but we want to start our second meeting somewhere early spring and then continue on as many meetings as we need.
And so when you say information meeting, you mean similar to that community engagement forum we had?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, the community engagement.
Great. That's great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? Okay. We'll close the police district budget meeting, informational meeting. Val, you think we can do the consent agenda right now?
That would be great if we could give it a try.
So we have a consent agenda. Grant authorization request for the Bristol Fire Department Assistant to Firefighters Grant Program. An authorization request for the Downtown Transportation Fund for Base Street. Those are two, right, Val?
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on the board about those two? Or anybody have any questions on them?
And then there are two others, or three others. Authorization, two different ones for the authorization to apply to the priority lists.
Yeah, priority list for the Bristol core area.
And street naming up on
Priority list for
Lower
the
Notch Road.
water line replacement project. And Greg West new road name request off Lower Notch Road for new subdivision, and they want to name that Madison Drive.
Mhm.
Anybody have any questions about any of those?
And if so, they would be taken off the consent agenda for discussion, and then the rest of the consent agenda would be voted on in one motion.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda, the top, those 5 items. I just have a question on number 5, Madison Drive. I asked last week. I'll wait for you to get a second.
Second.
I asked last week about a turnaround for that area because I said it looked like the driveway was going past one house to another, and I was told we've never done that for driveways before. Well, now it's not a driveway, it's a
road.
it's a
Well,
road.
it's still a driveway. It's a private driveway.
Okay, so we're not approving, I don't think then we should take that, I think we should take that off. And did zoning require a cul-de-sac or something at the end?
This is approved as a subdivision through the planning commission. This agenda item is only for naming the road.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, any more discussion on those 5 items? Okay, all those in favor, say aye, raise your hand, wave. Any opposed? Okay, consent agenda.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I don't want to jump because the next thing is too big. So I guess we'll sit and wait for a couple minutes, unless there's something you could think we can talk about, Val. Or if there-
Well, if anyone, if the select board wants to start the roundtable.
Yeah. Got a couple minutes. Anybody got any, Joel, you got anything for the roundtable?
Yeah, just Bruce said, have we got a battery for that sign, speed sign down on East Street?
It comes and goes.
It's the cold weather and the snow covers. I get out there more frequently to keep the snow off the solar panel.
So I guess is that sign different than the one on North Street? Because the one on North Street seems to click along like nothing. Never.
They are 2 different brands, and
Okay.
there are 2 batteries in the panel on East Street. Like I said, the pitch of the solar panel isn't as steep as the other one. It's requiring a little more maintenance, and I don't get to it as quickly as I'd like.
Okay. No, I just was wondering if they're not the same brand, it might be because of the cold weather. One's affecting North versus the other.
Yeah, I think if we could turn the solar panel more to the south, we would have, we won't be running into as many issues. Eric and I discussed it. We've got to have a different type pole than what we have at the moment. And we're going to fix that in the spring.
Okay.
Is it something where that unit is still under warranty in case it's like, or unless you think it's just a recharging issue, not like a battery issue?
It seems to be a recharging issue because when we have it uncovered and we're getting more sunlight, we're not running into as many issues.
Okay.
But yes, it should still be under some kind of warranty if needed.
Okay, good.
Okay, now we're gonna hold and come back. And it's 7 o'clock, so we will call the annual town meeting, public informational meeting. For those that have just joined us, this is the informational meeting only. We'll have another one next Monday. And this is just an informational meeting. We're not going to be voting on anything because everything is being done by Australian ballot. So we will answer any questions that anybody has. If you would like to have a question, either raise your hand or send a chat. We'll try and keep track of that.
Michelle, I think one way to approach this is to go through the articles one by one, even briefly, just to kind of go through them.
Ugh. Means I got more reading to do.
The other thing, yeah,
Or just say Article 1, Article 2, Article 3.
Go ahead, Go ahead, Peter.
you said next Monday, isn't it? The 1st is our next informational.
That's next Monday.
That's next Monday. Okay.
Time flies. Okay.
It's
Pay
that
attention to the dates and
well,
not
it's
the.
February, yeah.
All right. So, Article To elect town officers as required by law. We have one select board member for 3-year term, a select board member for 2-year term, 2 library trustees, school board members, moderator, first constable, second constable, and 2 listers. And just so people know, Fred Baser has decided he is not going to run for moderator next year. So if there's anybody out there who wishes to be moderator, come join the fun. Or we'll figure something out. But I'd like to say thank you to Fred and for all his years of dedicated service. Beaker, do you know how long he's been moderator? Yeah, Sharon.
I guess I got to unmute if I'm going to talk. I don't know. He was moderator when I started, so it's 20 plus years.
Okay. I knew it had been a while. Okay. Anybody have any questions on Article 1? Okay. Article 2. Will the voters of the town of Bristol vote that all real property taxes payable in installments shall bear interest at a rate of 0.75% per month or fraction thereof for first 3 months, and thereafter 1.25% per month or fraction thereof from the due date of each installment, with a payment to the town treasurer for the real property taxes for the town's year July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2022, due in 2 installments, November 15th and April 15th. Any questions?
Am I muted? We should probably note that the dates have changed from the 5th to the 15th.
Right. Yep. Give them a couple more days to pay their taxes.
Yep.
And April 15th as well, to coincide with the traditional tax day.
So it's really going to hurt this year. Instead of twice, just once.
Okay. Article 3, will the town limit the amount of the penalty charged by the collector of delinquent taxes for payments made after the due date for payment to 4% of the tax collected? Any questions?
Just want to point out that the state statute provides for 8%. In previous floor meeting votes, the voters voted to lower it to 4%. The select board originally proposed in the warning making it 6% to represent somewhere in between, but then the decision was made to keep it at 4% to reflect the will of the voters.
Article 4, will the voters set the salaries that shall be paid to the members of the select board at the same as fiscal year 2021, which is being $500 plus $10 per meeting and $25 per meeting for the chair? Any questions on that?
And so people know, we kept that the same as last year since we didn't have the option to have it set, which is usually set on the floor. So we hope everyone is okay with that. We felt it seemed fair and just keeping it the same as last year since we didn't have the opportunity to change.
And also, in case folks didn't know, the select board chair rotates every year. So in the year coming up, it'll be a different chair.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, guess who's next, speaker? Okay, Article 5. Will the voters of the town of Bristol adopt the Bristol Town Plan as updated by the Planning Commission and approved by the Select Board on December 14th? Copies of the documents are on the Bristol Town Office website, or at the Bristol Town Office, or on the website. And this was updated from, what was the last time it was updated, Val? The town plan?
Well, it had been readopted in 2017, but this was a much more significant update to update the data and include statutory provisions, including an enhanced energy plan.
Energy plan, right? Okay.
And the readoption in 2017 was more or less a readoption of the 2012 plan. So this was a substantial update and overdue.
Mm-hmm. All right. Does anybody have any questions on that? And Ian is throwing stuff on the chat for links for
Yeah.
you to get to stuff if anybody's interested.
So I put, planning commission has done an excellent job over the last year, sort of updating it, as well as working on the enhanced energy plan. On the town website, the planning commission has put together a quick guide to the Bristol town plan in terms of what the plan is and the changes that have been made. I encourage everyone to take a look at that. It's a 3-page document, very quick read, and gives you a great sort of overview of the plan and the changes that have been made. So that's a very useful document that they put together for everyone.
Mhm. They've done
And that can
great.
be found. I linked it in the chat. It's also, if you go to the town website, under boards, commissions, and committees, as planning commission, the document can be found there. And maybe I can put it on the front page of the town website as well, make it easier.
Any questions? Okay, Article 6. Will the voters authorize the transfer of $75,000 from the fire department equipment reserve fund to the fire department vehicle fund for the purposes of contributing to the purchase of a new fire department engine? Who wants to explain why the fire department is doing that? I mean, I know why, but I may not be as articulate.
Well, they had, I guess I could explain, Michelle. And if
Mhm.
Chief is on, please come right in, Chief. The 75,000 was earmarked for new packs, air packs, SCBA's. And as most of the public knows, we got a grant for almost 125,000 to buy those. So we don't need that 75, but we will need it for the purchase. The truck committee has spec'd out the truck and was going to submit it tonight, but a couple of details they need to work out with on the agenda. And they believe they're going to need that 75,000 more because they're not quite enough in the truck fund for replacement vehicle fund. So that's why it's going to be moved over. It's not an additional fund. It's just money left over from the equipment to the vehicle fund.
Yeah, the only reason it's being moved over is just because they had the extra, they got the grant. Okay. Any other questions on that, on Article 6? Okay. Article 7, well, the voters adopt the proposed 2021-22 fiscal year public works highway operating budget in the amount of $809,116. A portion thereof in the amount of $706,144 to be raised by taxes.
Of personnel assigned to that parent function. Reason being,
I can't see people.
Yeah.
Any questions for anybody on Article 7? Okay. Article 8. Will the voters adopt the proposed 2021-2022 fiscal year Arts, Parks, and Recreation Department budget in the amount of $307,211, a portion thereof in the amount of $202,411 to be raised by taxes? Any questions? And this one was pretty much level funded too, right, Val?
Pretty much.
Article 9. Will the voters adopt the proposed 2021-22 fiscal year general fund operating budget in the amount of $976,393, a portion thereof in the amount of $783,099 to be raised by taxes subject to bonifications by actions on the previous articles? Anybody have any questions on the general fund budget? Okay. I say all these budgets are in the report, the annual report.
Yep.
If you guys have any questions and want to ask, we do have another informational meeting next Monday. So, okay, Article 10. Will the voters appropriate the following sums to be placed in various town reserve funds account? Do you want me to go through all of these?
Probably for the people that don't have it sitting in front of them, Michelle.
All right. Capital Building Fund, 30,000. Capital Fire Equipment Fund, 25,000. Capital Fire Vehicle Fund, 100,000. Capital Highway Equipment Fund, 135,000. Capital Road Fund Construction, 40,000. Capital Road Fund Paving, 125,000. Capital Sidewalk Fund, 35,000. Conservation Fund, 10,000. Reappraisal Fund, 5,000. Technology Fund, 7,000. And that totals $512,000. Any questions?
And basically the same as last year.
Yeah. Okay. Article 11, will the voters approve an appropriation of $144,248 for the Lawrence Memorial Library for its annual operating budget? Any questions? Okay.
And as usual, you'll find the breakdown. There's the library report and the town report, as well as their budget breakdown as well.
Okay. Moving on. Article 12, will the voters appropriate $29,000 for the Bristol Cemetery Association? And this is for the purpose of maintaining the Greenwood Cemetery. Questions?
And all of the figures for the next articles are all the same as last year.
Okay. Article 13, shall the voters appropriate $10,000 to Bristol Core, Bristol's nonprofit downtown organization committed to increasing and maintaining the economic vitality of the downtown area? Questions, comments?
And if folks don't know, I'm the current acting director, executive director of Bristol Core, so I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
So ask him the hard questions.
Actually, Ian, I'll ask one. I've been
Sure.
asked, because you didn't have Pocock Rock because of the pandemic, and it's still maybe being up in the air this year. What was done different, or was there a balance now of the 10,000 from last year?
There isn't, because actually we received 10,000 from the town. An event like Pocock Rocks is completely sponsorship funded.
Okay.
The 10,000 essentially pays for the salary of the executive director, which is about 7,800, and the rest is used mainly just for paying sort of clerical things like that. So that's where the majority of that 10,000 goes to. Everything else that we do with our budget of about 30,000, the rest is fundraised. And this year for Pocock, similar to last year, Pocock isn't in our budget for this year just because we felt, similar to the Stampede, it's just going to be too soon to do a large scale event in town and bring in thousands of people. So we won't be doing that this year, but we hope to do events in December.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And Ian didn't mention this, but he has already announced that he plans to just become a board member. And so the core board is in the process of doing an executive director search. And so we're in the process of updating the job description, and we'll soon be advertising that and putting that feeler out.
There are some tough shoes to fill there, Ian.
Yeah, I've done it. I did that position for 5.5 years, and I felt that I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. And I think it's time for some fresh perspective to come in. I also obviously want to focus some more on my select board work, and it's just a little easier to do that in these times. So I'll be stepping down.
Well, I hope you don't step off the board though, Bristol Core.
No.
You see a lot of daily stuff.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay, moving on. Article 14. Are these all of the special requests now?
The appropriations.
Yeah, the appropriations.
Yeah, it starts at the cemetery or Lawrence Library, I guess. So that's all So
Okay.
I guess for folks listening and viewing tonight, the biggest change this year is that along with just obviously not holding an in-person meeting in the Australian ballot voting, is that usually things like appropriations, which is core, and the Cemetery Association, 4th of July, that's all usually a floor vote. Now everything is on the ballot to be voted on. So it's instead of doing it as a collective yes or yay or nay, every one of the articles, which are part of the appropriations, are all individualized now for the ballot, and so you can vote on ones individually.
Mhm.
It's the same with the other articles. They were all voted from the floor before as
Right.
well.
Right, that's true.
Mhm.
Michelle, we can't change an article, can we?
No.
Article 6 should say provide baseball and softball for elementary school children.
Article which?
Article
16.
16.
Oh, 16. I thought you said 6.
So did I.
I was like, we already went way by that.
No, Article 16 should say and softball.
Okay.
We'll make a note
Good
for
to know.
next year.
Yeah,
Sure
I think
that-
that was based on the summaries that are provided in this report.
But in any event, all of these have been maintained at the same level. They've been level funded from last year. There's no new ones, and these are all the same that we had last year. But you'll get to vote on them next week. Okay. And do you think I need to go through every single one of these, or? Okay, good.
I'm happy to read them if you want me to.
Have at it.
Okay, let me take a drink of water.
Yeah,
here.
get some water.
So yeah, there's a full list obviously in the town report, but I'll go through these. So Article 14, shall the voters appropriate $6,000 for the Bristol 4th of July committee to organize parade and events at the town green. Obviously that didn't happen last year, but we hope that it'll happen this year. Article 15, all right, are there any questions? I guess we could ask collectively or just go through each one and ask questions. If people have questions, just feel free to jump in.
All right, just go through them. Yeah.
Article 15, so the voters appropriate $2,500 to the Bristol Historical Society, caretaker for the local area history, including local legends and artifacts. Article 16, so the voters appropriate $2,000 for the Bristol Little League to provide baseball and softball for elementary school children. Let's see here, I gotta get my screen so I can see this. Article 17, so the voters appropriate $15,000 to the Bristol Recreation Club to manage the 10-acre recreational land and properties adjacent to Mount Abe Unified School District. Article 18, shall the voters appropriate $13,500 to the Bristol Rescue Squad to provide emergency treatment and transportation of ill and injured persons to nearby hospitals. Article 19, shall the voters appropriate $1,200 to the Bristol Town Band, a group of citizens that play weekly on the town park and at other locations. Obviously, we hope that they come back this year. Article 20, shall the voters appropriate $4,700 to the Addison County Home Health and Hospice for providing in-home care and hospice. Article 21, shall the vote?
I hate to go back, but should
sure.
we mention Article 19 that last year they did not take their appropriate, but they're asking for it again this year, just so that if they can, and with the same understanding, if they don't end up having band concerts, then they'll probably end up giving it back to us again.
Yeah, very generous of them. Article 21, so the voters appropriate $4,800 to the Addison County Parent-Child Center to provide family and education services. Article 22, shall the voters appropriate $2,000 to the Addison County Readers Incorporated to support preschool literacy activities. Article 23, shall the voters appropriate $1,150 to the Addison County Restorative Justice Services Incorporated to provide restorative projects for offenders who have potential to learn from their mistakes. And a lot of the details for these organizations can be found in the town report with details about what they do. And a lot have provided reports for the past year. Article 24, shall the voters appropriate $300 to the Addison County River Watch Collaborative, a citizen-run water quality monitoring program. Article 25, shall the voters appropriate $2,700 to Age Well to provide home and community-based services. Article 26, shall the voters appropriate $3,875 to the Counseling Service of Addison County to offer professional mental health services, including a 24-hour emergency service. Article 27, shall the town appropriate $1,200 to the End of Life Services, formerly Hospice Volunteer Services, to said sum to come from town funds. Slightly worded slightly differently. Article 28, shall the voters appropriate $1,000 to Homeward Bound, Addison County Humane Society, to promote ethical treatment of and prevention of cruelty to all domestic animals by providing shelter and education services. Article 29, shall the voters appropriate $3,250 to Hope, helping overcome poverty's effects to provide emergency services, dental care, and affordable housing. Article 30, shall the voters appropriate $1,400 to the John Graham Housing and Services to provide emergency shelter to the homeless. Article 31, shall the voters appropriate $3,500 to NEAT, Northeast Addison Television, a nonprofit public access television station which serves Bristol's 5-town region. Article 32, shall the voters appropriate $1,000 to Open Door Clinic to provide free health care to the uninsured and underinsured residents in Addison County. Article 33, shall the voters appropriate $750 to RSVP and Green Mountain Foster Grandparent Program, a program for people 55 and older who want to help meet community needs through their use of skills and knowledge of nonprofit organizations. Article 34, shall the voters appropriate $11,306 to Tri-Valley Transit, formerly Addison County Transit Services, or ACTR, to provide transportation with Tri-Town shuttle bus and other transportation services for elderly and disabled. Article 35, shall the voters appropriate $3,000 to the Turning Point Center of Addison County, behaviors for the purpose of supporting its mission to assist persons, their families, and their friends in recovery from substance use disorder and addiction. Article 36, shall the voters appropriate $1,650 to the Vermont Adult Learning to provide educational programs for adults. And Article 37, shall the voters appropriate $2,500 to Women's Safe to promote the social welfare of Addison County to reduce the incidence of physical, sexual, and emotional violence against women.
Good job.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions on any of those articles or anything else that's in the town report?
I recommend acknowledging that the dedication and memoriam is to Domenico.
Yeah.
He was a great champion of the river and fishing and an active founding member of the Conservation Commission.
And the Addison County River Watch, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Among other things.
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Anybody else have any other questions on the town report, town budgets?
If folks had a chance to review the town report, I'm curious if anybody has any feedback, reaction to how it's been organized. It's different than previous years. And if you haven't had a chance to check that out, then you might notice that it's a little different.
Hopefully people won't be too upset with the non-alphabetical table of contents. So I'm a designer by trade and wanted to sort of try to improve the town report. We had a few people contact the town just with suggestions. And so I sort of worked with Sharon Lucia this year, as I did last year, to try to improve just the layout, organization of the reports themselves. And one of the biggest things I did was change the table of contents. It seemed to me that it was better to have a table of contents that actually listed things in order. So as you look through, you could figure out where things are. So we broke it into different sections, sort of grouping the financial reports and putting in the reports for organizations and town departments separately. So hopefully people find that useful when you look at the report. Also for the web version, there is, you can, when you go to the table of contents on page 3, you can just click on a particular item and it will jump to that particular page. So hopefully it'll make it a little bit easier on the PDF version to be able to access the report and get to the information that you need. But I'm happy to hear if people want to email me suggestions or concerns or questions about the changes. I'm happy to talk to you about that.
Okay. If there are no questions, we'll close the informational meeting and move on with the remainder of the select board meeting.
And just a reminder, another meeting will be next week, same time, that channel, and we'll see what else comes along.
Yeah. So next week it'll be start at 6:30 for the police district and 7 o'clock for the town.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining in. Regular business, Stony Hill Housing Development Proposal, Samantha Dunn at Evernorth and Kevin Harper, Stony Hill. I don't see them on. Are they coming on? No?
Yep, Samantha's on, and others.
Kevin's here too.
I'm going to give Samantha co-host stuff
Here.
so that Samantha can share her screen.
Great.
I need-
Good evening, everyone. You took me so you got through that first part of the agenda so fast. You kind of took me by surprise. So thank you. I am here. I'm so impressed with the organization and I just the efficiency of your meeting. I visit select boards all across the state, and this one is exceptional. I wanted to start by introducing myself and a couple of other people. I know, Kevin, are you on? Did you make it onto the call?
He was on, but I don't see him here now. He may have dropped off, unfortunately.
You may just be listening. I think he also was expecting it to take a little bit longer.
Okay.
Somebody message him.
Yeah,
I did message him.
Okay,
So
good.
my name is Samantha Dunn. I'm a developer at Evernorth, which is most people would know as the organization Housing Vermont, if you know of us at all. And Housing Vermont just this past summer merged with another nonprofit housing organization based in Portland, Maine. And that merger sort of created a new organization called Evernorth. We still have all of the, do all of the same work that we always did in Vermont. And the idea of the merger was just to try and have a regional impact. And we're seeing that already on policy and resources. So that's exciting. I wanted to take a minute to introduce Elise Schanbacher, who is here with me as well. Elise is the executive director of the Addison County Community Trust, and Evernorth and ACCT partner on all housing developments, new housing developments in Addison County, and have a long history of partnership. We partnered together on the recent renovations at the Pleasant Hills property, which I think folks are aware of over on Mountain Street. And I think you all know Kevin, so it's okay that he's not here. I think he will be joining us. And I did send a memo to the board that I'm happy to talk through, but don't want to be repetitive if people have read it. Or if people want to ask questions.
Did folks have a chance to look it over?
Yeah, I did. I did. I have a couple questions.
Although maybe Samantha can just do a quick overview for folks. For the select board.
Absolutely, of what was in the memo. Yep. And I can even, I should be able to share my screen for anyone following along that didn't have a chance. Well, we can just take a look at that. Hopefully it'll work. So only host. It's asking me who can share. I don't want to mess up your meeting, Valerie.
No, you should be able to.
It's not letting me at the moment. Let's try Okay.
There we go.
That should help a little bit. So this is just a memo that I sent, and basically the overview is most folks are familiar with the site. That Kevin Harper and Stony Hill Development have been working on with the town on this large master plan in the location, and there was always a plan to have housing on the site. Kevin had gone so far as to permit 15 units of housing on this site. The housing that he was imagining was sort of, he calls it starter and finisher for sale homes. So small homes that were, but with home ownership. And we started talking with each other a few years ago as the realities of the cost of construction in Vermont kind of collided with his goals of providing that home ownership at an affordable rate, a rate that wasn't at $300,000-$400,000 a home, and was really having trouble making the numbers work. And as those couple of years went past, the numbers have really only gotten more challenging and not less challenging. And I think Kevin realized that he wasn't going to be able to build that vision that he had. And so he reached out to us. We had many conversations about the parcel and the project and what we might do with it. And we've been working with the original design team, both Cushman Design and Green Mountain Engineering, to take advantage of as much of the design work that's already gone into the site, recognizing that there was community input into that design. It was permitted, and important resources have been used on the design, and it's a great design. When the changes that we look at making really have to do with the size of the units that we build. We do not build for sale housing, we build rental housing, and it would be operated by ACCT. They would be the property managers. And a little bit further down in the memo, I talk about who that housing would serve. But before we get to that, it was really great to be able to read Bristol's new town plan and see that the project that we were envisioning on this parcel would really help to meet all of the goals laid out in that plan. I think there was a document earlier that mentioned the recognition that Bristol has a housing problem. While the population isn't increasing at any great rate, it is staying stable or increasing slightly, and household sizes are getting smaller, which means that there is an increase in households and a real lack of housing at many different levels of affordability. So the housing that we are envisioning here, again, would be rental housing, would be available for folks who make up to 120% of the median income in the county, and be affordable all the way down, to folks that make 50% of the median income. And when we say affordable, our rents are limited to 30% of someone's annual income or a household's income. And it's affordable in perpetuity. The funding sources that we bring into the project put covenants on that housing that basically say this will be affordable to folks, meaning no more than 30% of their income, for 100 years.
Hey, Samantha, this is Kevin. Am I audible?
You are.
Yep. I'm sorry to interrupt, and I just wondered if because I haven't heard myself the number. What does that mean in terms of a single bedroom rental unit on a month? What would you guess the rental per month would be?
I don't have that in this table. Do I, Elise? I don't know if you know off the top of your head.
Yeah, I mean, approximately, and the rents do vary with income level. It's usually in sort of the $700 for area for a 1-bedroom that's restricted to somebody making 60% of AMI.
Okay.
And for the quote market units, so for example, at the building we just did in Virgins, the market 1-bedrooms are between $900 and $950, I believe.
Okay, great. It just helps. That the percentages are hard for to get your head around. And I'm sorry for being a few
Absolutely.
minutes late. If you have any questions, by all means, I'm here.
Thanks,
And we
Kevin. I know these guys were so efficient. We were all kind of taken off guard.
All right.
The table that you can see now on the screen sort of talks about or shows you sort of the income ranges that this housing would serve. In addition to this, there are folks who don't have this kind of income and still need housing, and some of those folks have access to vouchers, which means that those people still pay 30% of their income, but the voucher makes up the remaining rent that would be required to basically operate that unit. And we would have several of the units in this property designated as for homeless households or households at risk of homelessness, with services provided through, I just heard you talking about John Graham Shelter. And again, those folks are able to access a voucher, but have a safe place to live and a place that they can stay.
So Samantha, the quick question on that, does that mean that they're subsidized by the state, or does that also mean short term?
Nope, it means they're subsidized by the state, so they have a voucher that pays the difference in their income and their rent. And when we talk about for those units, that we have sort of a memorandum of understanding with a service organization to make sure those households are also getting any additional services they need to make sure that they can stay stable in the housing that they're in. Kevin, I think what you missed was me sort of talking about how we got to where we are. Did you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, I can maybe very quickly. I think it's fair to say, for those who may have been on the board when Stony Hill got started on this, it was part of a larger idea to couple housing units that were intentionally small, super efficient, net zero ready, in a 900,000 square foot range, many of which were 2-bedroom. There were a couple of single bedroom. And we were, as someone, I think when I came on, I heard this sort of starter home, ender home concept. And it sounds like there's some of that in your vision, Samantha. But our emphasis really was, we wanted a certain handsomeness and appropriateness for Bristol's architecture and sort of sidewalks and on-street parking and all that sort of thing to make it feel like the rest of the village. But we wanted super hyper efficient. And we looked at, all the ways you can make them, these homes in factories, Vermont's and whatnot. We looked at 3 different Vermont manufactured homes. And by the time you change some roof features and, they all end up looking like boxes, and we just couldn't get our heads around it. It didn't feel right. And we started from scratch and worked super hard to make them extremely tight and completely, utterly energy efficient, all electric. So a solar panel on the roof would do it, and so that was the goal, but $300,000 was not going to work for Bristol's demographics, for affordability in Bristol. And it just got, as Samantha, I heard you say, it just got worse as 2 years went by. So back to our conversation, second conversation with Housing Vermont, it became really evident that we could get all of that and affordability and a mix of affordable and market rates, which I think says a lot about the concept. And then the more Housing Vermont looked at this and shifted towards the increasing density more by making the individual units denser, having more single family units in these same footprint buildings or very similar, than two bedroom units per unit. Aren't you at 3 units now per building, more or less, Samantha?
Well, the duplexes are actually still duplexes, but I think it's in the row house, and we can sort of cut to the design in a minute. You
Okay.
had townhouses, and we've reimagined those as flats because we
Okay.
know that the demand is primarily for 1-bedroom units, and there is actually a lot of demand for people to live in homes that don't have stairs.
Okay. Yep.
So
And so I think for Stony Hill, it became, okay, so if we're going to have to build these, borrow a bunch of money, invest, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million that we would have to borrow from a bank and hope that we could sell these units or rent them. And frankly, it's not what I do. It's not, I don't aspire to be in the rental business. And what became so obvious is with Housing Vermont is that they have the associations with the community. What do you call them? The Addison Community Trust.
yes, Addison County Community Trust.
County, yeah, and they manage these facilities. So that's where there's a heck of a lot of work that goes into making these work for people, is somebody to take care of them and respond to needs of the clients. And again, I'm just one person. I can't manage that. So this just seemed like a win-win in terms of affordability, still efficient as all get out, and attractive. And by the way, fewer buildings, so more open space. If you've looked at that site plan, there's just a football field sized green space and right out front for everybody to enjoy. And that really resonated with me as well. So I guess I don't want to steal the thunder here, Samantha. If you want to keep going on design and such, or what's next?
I mean, I'm happy to keep going through, and we'll get to that rendering. I just wanted to pull up this page because I think it's important, again, to see that what we're proposing really aligns with what the town has been visioning in their master plan. And as someone who has sat recently on a planning commission, you know, it's so, and written these master plans, the town plans, you say, okay, we've identified all these things, but how are we actually going to do them? And it just seems like such a great fit that when I look at the project that we're proposing in your most recent town plan, that we can check off all of these goals and policies that you folks have already identified, which are so useful. And honestly, make it really a lot easier for us to do our job when we are talking about funding and trying to bring this funding in. So yeah, we'll go to, did this work for folks? Is everyone seeing now the proposed design? It looks very similar. I hope you'll, see that very similar to the rendering of what has been permitted on the site already. That was done on purpose. This large green space is what Kevin was mentioning, the large football field. This had, I think, 3 what they were called cottages, which were small single family homes on the site. And those are really not cost effective to build. The more units you can get into a building, the more cost effective it is. So what you see here in this rendering is these buildings, which were originally known as, or what did you call them, Kevin?
They were row
houses.
Yeah.
Actually contain 16 units, 16 apartments of the sort of normal apartments that we build, a combination of 1 and 2 bedrooms. They would all have 0-step entrances. There would be 2 fully handicap accessible units, and then all of those other ground floor units would be adaptable to someone who needed those. And then these buildings over here are the 2 duplexes that have been slightly modified but still contain 2 units. And this brings 20 units to the site where there were previously 15. What's also been eliminated, because those cottages aren't in this green space, is we don't need to build that sort of arcing U of a driveway. We've, clustered parking on each end of the row houses and left this space open. And this is such exciting open space because it connects to the Bristol Trail Network. And the way we're imagining this space is that it will have things like community gardens and picnic tables and play structure that will serve the residents, but will also be accessible to the public through this pedestrian access. And that's just a really exciting opportunity for the project. And I think I do want to pause there and answer any questions folks have sort of about this, the switch from Stony Hill private development to an affordable housing development, or questions about the design.
So, Samantha, I have a couple questions, and you answered one of them because I wasn't clear that it was going to be a rental. I thought you guys were going to be selling them and the individuals were going to be owning them. So you answered that question.
Yep.
I assume you guys have to go back to the state because Kevin already had a permit for 15, that you'll have to go get an amended permit for the 20.
Yeah, absolutely. I think any permits that we've gotten, they will all be amended because there are changes to the design. Yep.
Okay. And then the extra 5 units, they're all within that row housing.
So right now, the row houses in the current design, the row houses contain 16 units, and then there's these 2 duplexes which each contain 2. So that's the 4 more for 20.
Yeah, but those duplexes were there previously, if I remember correctly.
But there were only 8 units in them.
Well, there were only in the row houses had only 8 units, not the 16. Or I'm not. Yeah. So the density has been added mostly in this row house structure.
Okay. So, and I'm assuming eventually you'll have to come back to town and make sure that I'm assuming we can service the water, because it's going to be town water through there with the additional 5.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this, and this is the other thing that kind of keys us in on the density that we have, that a private septic has already been designed for this parcel, but septics are designed by bedroom. And so that septic was designed for 30 bedrooms. And we are obviously, not obviously, but what we've done as we move forward and to get density on the site is make sure we stay within those 30 bedrooms. So the septic does not need to be redesigned. And really the water needs shouldn't be much greater.
Mm-hmm. So Addis, if I'm hearing you right, then Addison County Community Trust is going to basically be the landlord.
They will be the property manager. Addison County Community Trust and Evernorth will be co-owners of the property.
Okay. I think that's all I have for right now.
Michelle, I have a couple.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Joel.
Go ahead.
Kevin, I know your first, when you came to the board or came to the planning commission, they approved the parking out in front there. And now this has changed a little bit. That was going to be for parking for overnight, or not overnight, but guests that coming for the townhouses. And now that you're going to add basically, I guess, 4 more units. Maybe I'm wrong there. I think I could done the math.
What might be useful, Joel, is I don't know if we can pull this up. Valerie, are you controlling the screen?
No, I am.
Samantha, is there any way you could pull up and I don't know, maybe this is more information than you want, but the site plan for the entire project that includes.
Yep, I can find that.
Why don't you blow that up and show the road, zero in on the main road.
Yep. So those parking spaces, we're still imagining street parking spaces, there are 20 spaces of off-street parking, which is 1 per unit. Lots of residents, not half, but usually a quarter to a third of residents that live in this housing will not own a vehicle. There are very few 2-vehicle households. So 20 spaces is definitely adequate to serve these units. And we're imagining that those street parking spaces would serve as the visitor parking.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I see people parking on the street because they don't want to walk that far to the door.
That might happen too.
Yeah. And then what we can see from this snapshot, this rendering of just this project is as you move south into the commercial zone, if you will, there's a 125 or Valerie, you don't off the top of your head remember. Yeah, but Chris, we've been working closely with Chris Pearley on the zoning regs as it applies to commercial. And I know that the first building that we're contemplating that would be going in just behind the firehouse property, right in there is going to have ample parking. One note that might be of interest, Joel, is that on weekends, there's not likely to be much going on in this campus, and all of those parking spaces would be available. And from Stony Hill's perspective, and both David Wittersdorf as a partner, but also as who will be the future owner of this future building, has already said that he's more than happy to have his, parking around his building accessible to the public at all times. He's even talked about putting 2 or 3 charging stations there for free public use. So I think we're not disappearing any of the parking spaces that were rendered, Joel, on the original plan along the road. And you can still get 2 tractor trailer trucks going opposite directions and room for the parking. And then is there a little green space and then a sidewalk? And that sidewalk runs the entire length of the property.
I mean, I guess just want the developers all to know, and I think the board is behind me on it, that that will be overnight parking will be not permitted during the winter months.
Yeah.
Like it is in any other village street.
Right.
For snow removal. So
So where do people who live downtown park when that's in effect?
they have to have them off the park, off the main street, and for the park they have to have a permit. But my street, any other street in town, if they're out there for snow removal, they get towed.
Right. So I imagine we'd have to live with something similar, having to do at least with the main road, not necessarily the parking lots.
Oh, no, that parking lot is all you.
Right.
And I guess my last question being this kind of, when I was a lister back in 93, is this going to be like Hunt Farm development where that had a lot of coverage on it, and the actual cost to build that was $1.5 million, but it was only assessed for like $300,000 on the town tax rates? That's more for a developer question.
Yep. I mean, and there's a state statute in Vermont that property taxes, the development will pay property taxes, but property taxes on affordable housing are based on income at the property. So there's a state worksheet that is used to determine the tax rate at the property.
Okay. So that was somewhat, this is somewhat like Woodland Apartments, but all the buildings are together, and there's got 7 of them down through there with 6 units in each. Some are 2 and some are 1. And they're assessed at market value, their assessment for the town.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's because their rents are not limited. We're required by the funding that we use, and actually it's in the land records. There's covenants on this property that say that folks who live here do not have to pay more than 30% of their income on housing. It's folks are considered rent burden if they pay more than 30% of their income on housing, and lots of Vermonters are facing that. And so the state has determined through this act that one way of supporting the development and the successful continued operation of affordable housing is to have a different tax rate.
And that covenant goes for the life of the property.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
When you say life of the property, for as long as Addison Community Trust and Vermont Housing own it.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Which, as long as it's going to be affordable housing, it needs to be in perpetuity, regardless of which organization ends up owning it over time.
Have you guys ever had to sell a property?
No. I mean, sometimes Housing Vermont will sell, not sell, we exit ownership and leave a property with the local non-profit housing organization, but we've never sold a development.
Yeah, okay.
After we get done with this topic on the housing and the screen is not being shared, I can pull up images of what the business park will look like, which is right next door. But talking about taxes, that might be a good segue, Samantha, to the overall funding package that's intended to make this happen, part of which includes a proposal for the adjoining town-owned property. And also some of the funding sources will require the town of Bristol to be the applicant, similarly as has been done in some previous projects that you worked on in Bristol.
Yep.
It might be worthwhile to talk about that.
Yeah. So, so I think what Valerie's alluding to and what laid out nicely in her package for the board is that, again, this parcel is currently permitted for 15 units, and that is partly because of density. And right now we couldn't put the full 20 units that we have designed on this parcel within the current zoning regulations. And so what was also in that request was a request, and I'm going to go to a very different view here and try and zoom in a little bit. A request to the town for a boundary line adjustment that would basically make some of the town-owned land accessible to this parcel for that density. Kevin worked with Kevin LaRose and Chris Purley to sort of understand what some options for that would look like. And that was the last 2 pages in your packet and what you should see on your screen now. And this purple is one of the proposed options. This almost rectangle is the housing site that we've been looking at with the fire station here and the business park back here. So again, the existing site cannot accommodate the full 20 units that we have designed. And we are interested in hearing from the select board the interest in donating or selling some of this adjacent land to help us reach that density. It's not developable land. We certainly wouldn't plan to develop anything on it. We would be happy to put covenants on the land saying, saying that it couldn't be developed and it wouldn't, and protect, any kinds of protections that the town is interested in. And I think there were 2 options. Kevin, you might want to speak to this. I think you were kind of involved in depth with Kevin LaRose in developing these.
Yeah, I had asked Kevin to do a couple possible scenarios. One, sort of going the distance from the southernmost border. Samantha, from go to that property line.
I'm a little bit challenged with my screen sharing. I don't have my full control here.
There you go.
Line.
Right from there, around, if you will, around the bend, around the river to the creamy stand. I'm pretty much right there. That shows effectively the property line that the town owns, but down into the middle of the riverbed, I think is technically where it goes. And what's interesting about that is, but for the southernmost quadrant, that's all ROC, which this is showing the 3.5 acres, many feet up from the river bank. But I don't, given it's mostly ROC, we don't need all that. They don't need all that. Maybe 2 acres, 2.5 acres would probably do it for the extra 5 units required for the 20 unit development. There's a, Samantha, click on the other option. Yeah, and then this one is, it's a shorter run. You stop, it looks like across the street from maybe Martin's or so, and all the way down into this, the middle of the river, which is the property line. And that, what that does, unfortunately, is it increases the amount of mixed use. What is it? A village mix zone, which is only
Village
2
mix.
houses per acre. And that actually sort of means you need more land, more like 3.5 or so to pull those 5 units off. So the other option is more appealing in the sense that it leaves the river out of the mix. It comes uphill quite a bit, and then it goes from end to end, if you will, from Creamy Stand to the property line for the housing development. Now it does go on further south, and which has nothing to do with us, but just so you know, the town owns further, along there as well. So those were 2 options, and again, I think they both show a little more than would be requested.
Okay, Kevin, let me ask you 2 questions. My first issue is our Bristol Trail Network is on that whole swath.
Yeah. And we're not touching that. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, whatever we did, we'd have to make sure that was protected.
And absolutely.
My other question is, do you actually have to own the land, or can there be a permanent easement, so to speak? I'm just thinking one of the biggest reasons we wanted this property was to protect ourselves from the river and the floods and all that other stuff.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, I would prefer not to own this land. It's going to complicate our federal funding applications to be coming down into the river. I don't know if that's a question for Chris Purley, the zoning administrator. I think that either way, if his decision is like, you really need to own the land to be able to get the density, I think we would, in the acquisition of that land, we would protect it all. We would say sort of the same thing in perpetuity. We as the property owner can't make any changes on that part of the site, and that the town would continue to have the access to all of the amenities that it provides, including the eco services along the river, as well as something like a trail network.
I'm pretty sure that ownership would be required, and that an easement alone would not satisfy the density requirements
in the zoning regulations.
Correct.
Yep. So it would just sort of be flipping those easements around to give the town sort of whatever it is that the town feels is important to get in legalese and on the books in terms of what happens on here.
And we would be happy to continue to work with Kevin LaRose and Chris both to more narrowly. This was changing as recently as this afternoon in terms of understanding the ROC implications. It isn't real obvious on the tax map or the zoning map, so I was thrilled that Chris was willing to jump in and drill down and get clear about the zone. So it's great that it could be less land. It'll just pull that line further up.
Is this just for the town, or does this you also need this for the state as well?
This is to meet the town zoning regulations.
And one reason this relates to the part of the discussion about taxes earlier was that if the select board supports this approach, then those lands become part of the taxable land.
Yep. they become part of the taxable land. But as we were saying earlier, because our taxes are based on income, it's really that having additional units makes the property operate better. You know, sort of it spreads the cost of the snow plowing and things out across more units so that there is essentially more profit. We're not for profit organizations, so there's no profit that comes back. But in terms of where the income and expenses, the separation between those gets bigger. And so I think when I did very quick sort of looking through that worksheet, having those 5 extra units would generate an additional $7,000 to $8,000 a year in taxes for the town, and as opposed to just having the 15.
Okay.
Do you know, have you calculated what the taxes may be for the entire project?
I looked at it. I hesitate because my asset manager is the one that knows how to. I hesitate to say a number that would be incorrect.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know all the nuances of it. I know enough to be able to see what that difference would be.
And I don't know that it came up in your presentation earlier, Samantha, but you did express an interest in the trail that does come up. Porter, are you live? Are you here? Could you, you can't click, but I'm just wondering if there's a way to, Samantha, to show the trail that comes up from below by the river, what point it comes up, and what your willingness to share the nice big green backyard with the public more generally.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to,
it's right in that corner, that upper right-hand corner. It's darn near right there.
Yeah. I mean, this is where I'm sort of imagining it. We obviously don't have it on our site plan. We see that having that town path is such an amazing amenity for the town, but also for the potential residents, and see it as a real opportunity for this green space to be a place where folks from the community can come together with residents. So if you're out on a walk, you can stop at the picnic table. Again, we imagine having a fair number of community garden beds. And if it seems like there's interest at the town level, there's a potential that we could build beds for other folks in the community, not just to serve these residents, and have that be a larger project because there is enough land.
You better be careful what you say. That's a hot topic right now. You might have just stepped into something you can't get out of.
The community garden is no longer going to be at Martin's. They're looking for space.
Well, this could be a great,
like right now.
a great opportunity. Then absolutely. I mean, we see this open space as certainly being for the community as well as for the residents.
Maybe the question in the chat in terms of considering a zoning change instead of selling the land and the potentials for that.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, timing is the issue for the grant. Is it worth mentioning? You think the board would be interested in the grant process, Samantha?
I mean, the funding process, I think the fastest it will happen is in 6 months, and the slowest it'll happen is it can take up to 18. We need to show site control and sort of show that we meet density requirements to actually bring funding in. I do have to submit an application for this project in a couple of weeks, and it's sort of hanging right. I was working on it today, and it said, and then we met with the Bristol Selectboard to figure out, am I submitting an application for 15 units or for 20? So I obviously knew we wouldn't have a decision tonight, but it's an important thing to figure out quickly. I think, ask, could we, lots of communities do have an affordable housing density bonus that would help solve this problem. But my understanding is the regulations were updated pretty recently. I'm not sure what the appetite would be for updating those again for a project like this.
Well, also, any amendments to the bylaws require voter approval. So that would require a special town meeting, which would not be a timely thing to accomplish.
Yeah.
Don't we have the right to approve it and then send it to a vote? And then, of course, the other side of that is once we approve it, if it's done before it goes to a vote, it's done.
Yeah, I think we wouldn't be, the risk level for that is one I can say that we we would have to.
If we approve it and it's built before it went to a vote, then it's done. I mean, we could approve it on this parcel. I believe that's the way it works. I'm not 100% sure on how the zoning change end of that works exactly, but I know that the select board has the ability to allow certain things to happen. I just don't know if this is one of those certain things that we can allow.
I see. It's worth looking into, though.
Well, any zoning change would require planning commission public hearings and select board public hearings, and then also town vote.
So I think that in terms of, I mean, yeah, so the hope is that we could get this application in. They're extremely competitive. Am I right, Samantha?
Yeah.
And they're only once.
Well,
they're
this
only
one
once a
application
year.
is only once a year, and it's just, I mean, it's, their dollars are limited. Vermont gets a certain amount of money, and so resources are limited. So I don't, that's not to say that a decision, we're not expecting the select board to say yay or nay tonight, but really wanted to present the project and understand what the questions were and what the next steps are for moving forward. And it sounds like one thing might be for the select board or others to think about, sort of, again, why the town wanted to hold that land, because I think it's a pretty recently that the town came into ownership of this land. Sort of what are the reasons that the town wants to hold that land, and is there a way to get those into an easement that people are comfortable with? Because again, we don't have any need or desire to develop the part of the land that's owned by the town. As you can see, we can, our development fits easily onto this parcel. It's really just for the density.
Yeah, the only reason the town wanted that land was we wanted to be able to access it in case we had to do something with erosion or, a storm, so that we didn't have to get permission to be able to get to the river in order to stop it from doing damage.
Yeah, and again, I think that is something we could write into, into the land records in the form of an easement, along with the, obviously the trail access and maintenance.
Peeker, I have a question on it. Can you show that slide back to shows the wraparound to the creamy stand?
Yeah.
My question is, so if obviously none of that is so-called buildable, just as my old thing is, it's holding the earth together. It's one piece.
It's important land, yeah.
So if that's owned by a different, i.e. Evan North or you people and Stony Hill Properties, and we have a slide there now, is that our responsibility, Peeker? It doesn't get.
Yes. Yes. It's
like the one behind LaRose Surveys that slid, and the town's not doing anything about that because that's on private land.
Well, the idea
town
was
is
that
doing something about it.
What's that?
area that borders where that white block is.
Yeah, I wonder what that was like.
That white block is, and I'm curious. I thought we ended up with that land. That was land that, that white block that belonged with the
House across the road.
Jimmy Lathrop's house across the road, and I thought we ended up with that land recently.
No, we didn't.
Mrs. Jipner didn't end up giving it to us because she didn't want to pay taxes on it.
No.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah. So I mean, it's basically to be able to protect for us to be able to protect that road edge there without without having to get permission from a landowner.
Mhm.
And that was the main reason we wanted that property. That's the main reason we kept it when we sold everything else to Stony Hill Properties.
So if it's just a question of protection, that could be written in that access cannot be unreasonably withheld.
Well, I think it could even be written in that access is allowed. I mean,
Right.
Right.
for purposes of the town.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But Joel, to your point, I think if it's owned by somebody else, then it's not on the town. If it's private property, it's not on the town.
Well, if we lose our road, it is on the town. That's
Well,
why
no, I get that, but I think
Right.
Joel was just talking about just sliding, kind of
Right,
like what
that's-
happened behind the roses.
That's what I was talking about, Peter.
But if it slides right there where that box is, guess what? That's
Yeah.
the road. Not
The
that box,
road's going with
where
it.
the
Yeah.
arrow in
Yeah.
the box was.
Yeah.
Back in the pink.
Yes.
Yeah.
That area, yeah, further to the
Right.
right. I don't know if it's your right. Closer to the creamy sea. Yeah,
Yeah, right in there.
That borders right up the road. Where that white block is there, they mow that,
Yeah.
and there's probably 10, 15 feet of flat there, 20 feet of flat there, whereas where the little arrow in the box is, the slope comes right up to the backside of the guardrail. And that's
Correct.
where we're nervous about.
Where are the 10 cars and trucks that are nicely parked on top of each other down there?
That's
That's
hard to
over the other side of the creamy stand.
That's over here. Does it make any sense, Kevin? I don't know if you talked with Kevin LaRose about this, of coming this way with the piece of
Yep.
land? If what I'm hearing is the town would prefer to just have.
I don't care. I mean, personally, I don't think we have to own it as long as we have access.
Access, okay.
Maintenance access for our West Street. I agree.
Yep.
But
Well,
to answer,
We'll have
Yeah,
to talk about that and figure out what we actually need before we say yay or nay.
Right.
yeah, what we were trying to avoid is doing, something silly like spaghetti lots for
Right.
continuity. It's stupid. So yes,
You
the
don't-
answer is if you wanted to go south that ways,
Mhm.
that would still be contiguous with the
Right, I mean, you could,
house. Yeah,
Yeah, but we don't own all that. Because that belongs to, we sold that lot.
No, we own it. We own from that.
Yeah.
We own that to the right side of that straight line.
keep going down. Yeah, right to the backyard of those lots, don't you?
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be fine too. And of course, we don't have any attachment to it other than that it stays where the heck it is, just like the town wants. It's pretty steep. I walked it yesterday for the first time. It was kind of exciting at this time of year. So anyway, I think it sort of, to me, I guess it's almost feels like it's in the town's hands. If it sounds like something the town would value, that again, affordability, the location, across the street from the high school, to have kids be able to walk across. We're going to have a crosswalk at the end of, out off Firehouse Drive.
Mhm.
And so it's safe for kids to access the rec park literally across the street, the high school
Right.
across the street. It's just location wise, it just feels so right for this kind of thing. It's we're hopeful. My hope didn't pan out in the sense that they were going to be too much, and it was way too much risk. I'm not a developer per se. It's not my business. And but to see this become something better than what I imagined, that being something that's still attractive, still in the right spot, and open to the public more and affordable. It seems like there's got to be a way to make it happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it looks fantastic. I had a couple questions, Samantha.
Yeah.
So in terms of the design of the apartments and stuff, do you I noticed that you have one in Virgins too. Do you sort of take a survey of the community as it is now to sort of lead the direction of what might be needed, or you just know in terms of your years of knowledge about these things about what might be needed in a community?
It's a combination. I mean, there's between Evernorth and ACCT, there's a lot of knowledge of the needs of the community. We also have a market study completed that looks at who the potential people are from within the community, who's likely to travel from outside of the community to live here, and what the demographics are in terms of bedrooms and things like that. I think ACCT has a substantial waiting list for apartments in Addison County and Middlebury and Virgins. Not a very big waiting list for Bristol because there's so few affordable apartments. But we imagine that there is overabundant demand, honestly, for these units. And we have really been working on, I think we have a vision similar to Kevin's in terms of the sustainability and energy efficiency of the buildings. Again, we own these buildings in perpetuity. And when we look at life cycle costs of what we're building, we're looking at a 50, we're trying to understand how can we build for 50 years and how can we use the least amount of energy, because we pay the utility bills and we can't raise the rents when utility rates get wonky because we're not allowed to raise the rent. So we have a real passion for building efficient units and have worked with a lot of different architects on figuring out the best way to build small units. And small units can work really well if they're well thought out. And the building in Virgins leased up during COVID, which means you weren't allowed to have more than one person in, a unit at a time. In 8 weeks, we 24 units. So we know that there's demand for those, and these units would be similar size. The layout, is obviously different because it's a different site.
Are you hoping to do? Go on, Joe.
Go ahead, Ian. Finish up.
I was just going to say, are you hoping to do net zero? Is that something that can be done with buildings of this size, or is it something that's not obtainable just given the expenses?
Except Bristol just hit GMP's red zone. So we are not going to be able to put, we can put only my understanding right now, I haven't dug into it too deeply, but I watched that map pretty carefully because it happened to us in Virgins as well, where GMP limits the amount of solar that you can put on site. Evernorth is working on building an off-site, sort of a centralized solar field that these kinds of projects can buy into, because we're building more and more all electric buildings and to be able to get to net zero. And we do imagine this being an all electric building with the, high efficiency heat pump and ventilation and heat pump domestic hot water as well.
Okay. I mean, one of the options, if you are running up against limits, is that we have the project that's happening on the Old Town Dump.
Yeah.
Is a community solar, and I don't know what the options are for you there. Obviously, that's probably factored into to GMP's limit.
Yes.
So I don't know if you can take advantage of that, given the situation of who owns what and how you operate. But yeah, there's potential there. So given that, I mean, given that you're what's your timeline for this? What are you hoping? Let's say you had the land available to you, would you be submitting immediately, or is it?
Best case scenario is that we would be under construction in a year.
Okay.
And it's really funding dependent, as Kevin was saying. One of the main source of our funding are the low income housing tax credits, and they're just awarded once a year. So if the application is due in a couple of weeks, the board meeting where the credits are awarded is in early May. And I kind of would need to show up to that meeting saying, yes, there's land that we've come to an agreement with the town, even if it's not signed, to say the project's ready to move forward, because at this point, with the cost of construction, the demand for those resources is really high. So they're only funding projects that are really ready to move forward. And so by May, I need to be able to show that that's where we are.
Well, I think
I can just say one more thing. These have been redesigned. I mean, Evernorth is putting real money into the redesign and upgrades, including all the engineering with the parking lots, not the road, the loop that went through it, that's gone. The locations of some of the footprints of some of the buildings have changed. So Green Mountain Engineering's re-engineered this entire site, and Cushman Design Group's redesigned to their requirements. So this, from that perspective, it's all but ready for permit.
Right. Yeah. Well, it looks fantastic. I mean, I think it's much needed in Bristol. I think it would be a fantastic addition. And you couldn't find a better location as well, in terms of, what it's close to and proximity to the downtown. But yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really exciting location, and the opportunity to be part of a, public-private nonprofit partnership on this site. I mean, this is like kind of a dream project for a developer, with the hopes that, folks who live here are going to walk south to go to work potentially, and walk north to go to the high school or go to that rec park, and might, even if it's not for financial reasons, might choose not to have a car because they don't need one. Right. Cars are really expensive, and so it's a great location.
Samantha, you said you were out in Virgins and just finished up. Is that the new units just on Armory Lane, just before the Legion on the left?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Couple questions. Being that these are all electric units, will there be any generator on site in the event of a power outage?
We will work with the engineer to understand if that's needed. Generally, we have a couple of other all electric buildings in design right now. And because we build our buildings to passive house air sealing standard, it would take a really long time for them to fall to a temperature, from lack of that heat source, to have it be a problem. So far on the two buildings, one's under construction now, one's going to start this summer, we have not been putting in generators. One of them there's units that are below grade and requires a pump for the toilet to flush. And in that one, we are paying for the battery to make sure you can flush your toilet. But otherwise, the engineers we've worked with have just sort of done the calculations and felt a generator wasn't necessary.
My other question, being that these are 1-bedroom units, how do you envision families fitting into this scenario?
Yeah, so they're not all 1-bedroom units. I believe there's, oh wow, I didn't put that in front of me. I know there's one 3-bedroom unit, because we always want to be, there's usually one, which is the same in Virgin. So there's one 3-bedroom unit, then the 3 other units one of those is in these duplexes, and then the 3 other units in the duplexes are also 2 bedrooms. And then I believe we have 3 more 2-bedroom units. So it's really a mix with a predominantly 1-bedroom unit.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
I still have a little bit of a concern, Samantha and Kevin. I'd like to see parking for at least a car and a half per unit. I know that sounds stupid, a car and a half, but take it from a gentleman who plowed for ACCT when you first moved into Hunt Farm Road. I plowed that for 15 years. There was always more cars than there was units.
Mm-hmm.
The gentleman had a boat and he put that in one spot or something. And if you got that room now, as you put that, you got the size of a football field at the back. I'd like to see maybe just that south parking lot, not the north one. But you always have snow removal this time of year and things, and that takes up a couple of spots. And I would like to have that relooked at.
This may be a good time to mention too that the site plan does include a property management office for ACCT so that we can have someone on site up in Bristol. So to the extent that there are, Samantha is correct. And I think if you look at our new building on Armory,
Did you want to look at this?
you'll see the parking lot is really usually like a third empty. Some properties, if there needs to be enforcement around defunct vehicles, which is something we see sometimes, and if you've plowed in KTP, you've probably seen that a little bit, so that we can, take action and make sure that we can issue parking permits now for our properties. So making sure that things are well run up there.
Yeah.
I think also, as Kevin mentioned, there's a very large parking lot being built to the south as part of the commercial property, and wonder if it would help if we sort of entered into some sort of agreement with the commercial property about being able to use parking during snow if it was necessary. And I'm happy to consider it. I know the zoning regulations in Bristol, I was so happy to see they don't require it. We recently had a development in a town that required 2 parking spaces per unit, and it really limited the number of housing units we were able to build in that community. And the parking lot is half empty, and the waiting list is 50 units, 50 families long. So, and building parking spaces, building and maintaining them costs money. So I would prefer to keep it at the 20, but obviously I'm happy to look at it and work with the zoning administrator.
You could have that so-called grassed over with a gravel base that you could park out there if you had to in the winter months.
Some potential overflow.
And
that stormwater retention pond to the east of the south parking lot is going to sit there dry. I don't care how much it's raining because I don't think the firehouse has ever seen any in their pond. But I think that chute at the end of the parking lot is to push snow, out of that area.
Absolutely. And this is, it's the first pass at a site plan, but we always work with property management staff to make sure we have, adequate, they think about these things because they're the ones that have to deal with them. Is there a place for the snow to go? Are we going to lose parking spaces? Can people turn around? That sort of, you don't necessarily see that thought in a pretty drawing like this, but there is a lot of thought that goes into these.
Samantha, did you happen to could you for 2 seconds click up the business park site that the engineer?
What I'm going to do is stop sharing my screen for a minute just so I can figure out the best way to find it.
Again, that's right to the south is a ton of parking. And my partner, David Blittersdorf, who's sort of down on cars and loves public transportation. And if it's cars, it's make them electric, et cetera, is more than happy to see his parking spaces in his lot be used by anyone that needs them. And I think the biggest pressure on parking for this whole campus, including the firehouse, is going to be weekends and events. And that's when the commercial buildings or lots are sitting empty, so if we could formalize something of an agreement to that effect, if that would help.
I think Val has those plans available if you want her to share.
I don't know if you can do it.
Yeah, I'm happy to stop sharing if someone wants to.
Yep. Okay.
I'm trying to download my home internet is a little bit challenged, so it's coming. But.
If there were a few extra parking spaces, could they be equipped with a basketball backstop? I know kids really like to have an area that is blacktopped for different kinds of, kids on tricycles and things like that.
skateboards.
You could have that kind of area which you could use for overflow cars if you had to.
That's a good thing to consider.
There you
Katie
go.
made a note in the chat about studying the needs of parking in the town too. Sorry, my screen just changed and now I can't see it, but it might be good to talk to Katie about that.
There
She's
you
noted the new zoning regs carefully studied parking and support shared parking, like you see in commercial areas. Excessive parking requirements really destroy a walkable area.
So there's, this is a different, what screen do you have here, Valerie? It doesn't show the parking lot. This must be wastewater or stormwater. That's good. That'll do it. So stop right there, right? Housing development to the top right-hand corner. Yep. Stormwater. And then a parking lot south of the stormwater. And David's building, if you come down further on the left, building A, there's parking all around the building on the north side. There's parking. Look at this on-street parking. But Joel, you were worried that, you know, with snow removal that night, you can't park there, right?
On the street you can't.
Right.
So there'll be plenty of parking off-road.
So you've got that parking lot right up in the northeast corner with 30-some parking spaces, and then you've got some south of Building A. I think it's 18 on one side only. So
You don't have a lot of off-street or on-street parking anyway out front. I get.
well, in front of Building
Going
A.
to have a get-together. The guests are going to park out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I forget, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 10?
Like 9 spots, I believe.
How
One of the
many?
things,
I think it was 9.
Okay.
one of the things we are going to miss, we don't have this drive around like you have right in here now through the townhouses or row houses.
Right.
Not going to have that on the so-called apartments.
Right. But again, what's interesting about that though, Joel, if you're looking at this, and again, this is the Stony Hill plan, there's the cottages, there's only 2 parking spots going to each of the 3 cottages on the south end, and then 2 parking spots for the duplexes. So it's only added about 8 parking lots, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 parking spaces to what's currently rendered is about 10 and 10. Isn't that what you guys have, Samantha?
Yeah, 10 on the north, 10 on the south.
Yeah.
Yep, we have 20 total.
And I guess we were hoping that between the roadway, which is fine for all but the worst of winter days, and the parking lot to the south of the stormwater retention pond might suffice.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everyone, for all the time.
Thank you.
So for next steps, Samantha, what will you need from the select board and when will you need it?
I think from the select board, at this point, after tonight, we would really just hope for a general sense of we're interested in working with you to make this work, or we don't, or we're not, kind of not a yes, no definitive, but just a direction. And then I would say probably within 4 to 6 weeks, it would be helpful to have something a more clear commitment. And then I imagine it, over time, we working with our attorney or your attorney to if we were to move forward with transferring land to this parcel, to make sure we could paper the needs of the town, and make sure we had something that worked. So as we are committing resources into the project, we know which project we're moving forward. Was that articulate enough? I think, we don't, again, I'm not expecting after one discussion with the select board to make a decision, but would like to, let's say, within, we get through town meeting day, within a month, have a clear sense of direction and what the select board's requests are for additional information or next steps. And happy to come back again and meet with the whole board if we, you get into a discussion and there are a lot of questions that come up that you feel like you still don't have answers to.
Thanks.
Okay.
I really appreciate everyone's time. So excited about this project in this location. I've been thinking about it for a couple of years, and I just, it seems like it fits so well, like, as I said, with the town plan and the location, and getting to work with Valerie and Kevin is a great opportunity. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. No, it's a great project.
Hey, thank you.
Muted.
Oops.
Yeah, I see that. Anybody else have any other questions?
So select board members, how do you want to proceed talking about this? Do you want to continue this in executive session tonight under real estate negotiations? Do you want to talk about it more tonight or on a future agenda item? What might be your thoughts?
I feel it's safe to say that my inclination is to say that we're willing to move ahead with this tonight so that they can start the process, and then we iron out the details. I don't think it's anything that we can't meet as far as the legal aspect of it goes. And I mean, it's a project that I think every one of us is in favor of. And if I'm speaking against what other people are thinking, please say so. But I don't see any reason why we can't tell her that we're on board with the project at this point, and then we iron out everything else going forward.
I agree with Baker. I think we've got it pretty well worked out.
Do we have executive session tonight anyway for personnel?
Correct.
I mean, if we're going to be in executive session, we can just discuss it and hash out whatever we need to hash out.
Well, I don't necessarily think it needs to be an exec session. I mean, one of the things I guess we'd have to sort of confirm would be whether it would be a sale. Val seemed to think that we aren't able to do an easement on a project like this. They would need a definite commitment of the sale of the land, right?
I believe so.
Okay. So knowing
sure
that.
Well, I think we need to find that out for sure, because there's a lot of cases where, like, when you want to put something close to the line, you can just get an easement for the land and not own it. So I think we need to really hash that out for sure, whether we can do an easement or whether we need to sell the land.
Okay.
Or
Or
at the very least set the land aside and say it'll never be developed, which it can't anyway.
Right. Something. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's a very definite possibility. It happens all the time.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So make a determination about that, whether we can do an easement and not sell the land. And then I think the second part would maybe, because of why the town purchased that land in the first place, is maybe rejigging the lines a little bit to maybe go more south, just looking at that as an option. Just because that particular area that was highlighted on the map was we needed that for a specific reason, as a just in case in terms of road protection, whereas the land to the south, we don't really have that requirement there. So maybe it's worth looking into that and to seeing if we can get the same amount of acreage that's needed. So there's like two parts of that then. Determining whether an easement is acceptable, and then whether are we interested in moving those lines a little bit to not, if we do have to sell, to not have to sell that certain section around the riverbed.
Well, you also have to decide whether you're selling versus donating.
Right.
But that's all. The first question was, are we open to the idea of pursuing this project?
Right.
And I believe the answer to that question is yes.
Yes, I agree. I'm fully on board.
I'm fully on board with that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Oh,
So as Speaker said, we can, if we are all in agreement, we can work out going forward how we might want to tackle that.
Yeah, we don't have time tonight to figure all the details out, I can tell you that. But I think we are, I think we're very safe in saying we are committed to the project and we can make it work.
Sam, is that what you need for now? For tonight,
That-
anyway?
That's wonderful. It means that sentence that I left in my funding application, I can finish in the affirmative. So yeah, that's great. And great to hear that there's so much support, recognizing that it's not a vote that's happening tonight, and looking forward to working with folks to answer questions and iron out the details.
Okay, so I think we should have a motion to that effect. So it's in the minutes. So if Samantha needs to have documentation, she will have that.
That would be wonderful.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Can you clarify, please, what your motion is, though?
The motion is that the town of Bristol is supporting the plan with Evernorth, Ashe County Community Trust, and Kevin Harper to pursue their affordable housing, and we'll work out the details later.
Can I make an amendment to that, Michelle?
Sure, I was just trying to.
I don't want to use the word town of Bristol, the town select board support. If this has to go in front of, I don't want to tie the hands of the planning commission. They may find something they like and they say, well, they put in the motion, the town of Bristol supports it. The town select board supports the plan. I'd like that.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. So Peaker made the motion, Ian seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor, wave your hand, say aye, whatever. Okay, motion carried. Cool.
Thank you all. We going home now?
Maybe you are.
You get to go home.
Everybody already is home.
I'm not home. I'm at work.
Oh, okay.
That'll work. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
See you
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye. Good night.
Good night. Val, we didn't get the minutes for the 4th or the 8th, right?
You didn't get the 4th? I mean, the 8th? 8th this afternoon.
Well, if we did, I didn't see them, so.
Hmm.
Hang on.
I did want to mention, Valerie, when you get these, unfortunately, my computer doesn't like to format the numbers very well. So even if I copy and paste, it does not let me save it. So just so you're aware.
Okay.
I did not get any minutes, but that doesn't mean they won't show up tomorrow morning.
There was one 5:31. There was February 8th.
Yeah.
I didn't receive anything after that.
No, I need just a little bit more time on the 4th.
Oh,
Okay.
yep, I did get them. I see them now. Okay, well, I haven't looked at them, so.
Yeah,
Then we
the-
have
the-
to-
at them either.
Yeah, my laptop was doing backflips today for some reason, and so I got.
Well, we'll just put that off until next meeting. Accounts payable warrant, Tasha, did you get that?
Yes.
Okay. I don't, do you
There
have
was
it
one
written?
liquor license.
There's one liquor license there for, Hogback Brewing, I think is what it was.
I think you're
Is that
right.
right? Yeah. So guys need to get down and sign.
So do you, Michelle. A bunch more
Yeah,
stuff
but-
showed up after you signed.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's one thing you forgot to sign.
The one thing I forgot to sign?
Yeah, when I was down there last week, when I was going through them.
Oh, no, all that stuff there was only like 3 envelopes or 3 piles there when I was there Saturday.
Yeah, we're-
Another
I have all
one,
these-
one showed up while I was there signing today.
Okay. All right. So we're back at a select board round table. So Peaker.
Wait a minute,
I'm good.
Michelle, I wasn't done yet. No,
Yes, you were.
no I wasn't.
Okay,
You
go ahead,
stopped
Joey.
me, but I wasn't done. We were talking about the speed car. The equipment committee,
Yeah.
2 calls, Brother Peter and Randy Sargent. I just questioned it to Sharon last week when I was looking over the town report, and they said, well, they weren't reappointed. I don't ever not reappointing any different 2 people. And Eric,
Everybody was reappointed to my knowledge.
huh?
Everybody was reappointed to my knowledge. I was surprised to see that as well.
And I said, I think you're still on, but I'll check on Monday night. So, because they said, we've been going to the meetings and, the fire committee, the truck committee came to us early and they didn't make the one the other day, but they've been doing with the truck. So as far as I'm concerned, I thought they were still on the committee. So,
Too.
They came to the meeting we had with Eric over at the town barn. They were both there. Ken, myself, Pete, Randy, and Eric. So everybody was there.
yeah, except Alan Clark, who's in Florida.
Right.
Right. So understandable. So I just want to make that clear. So
So
So I-
do
Can
we
we send-
need to technically reappoint them, or are they considered reappointed?
I'll make.
I can make a motion to reappoint Pete. Are they up again this year?
Well, are they 1-year terms?
I
They're
don't
one-year
know.
terms.
That's what I.
They all are. According to the website, and from what I know, they're all 1-year terms.
So they'd be up again in March.
So there's no sense in reappointing them tonight. We can do
No,
it
we have
next
to do it
week.
again on Monday, or well, not Monday, but the following.
So,
following
But if
board
they're
meeting.
not on and we've got business coming up that we want to deal with, we should make sure they're on. So
Do it retroactively.
Yeah.
What's
do it
that? Yeah.
I'll make a motion to existing last year's equipment committee stay the same for the 2000 till March 31st, 2021.
March 31st?
Or whatever. We may not get to it till March 31st.
Okay, whatever.
Right.
So whenever their thing's supposed to end.
yeah, until they're reappointed again.
Right.
And I
Somebody
would
second?
add retroactively to that, Joel.
I did.
Yes.
Okay, Peaker seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Wave, hi, whatever. Okay, motion carried. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay.
So that issue that could have been due to me when I did the town report. We move things around, and it's there's potential that I deleted them accidentally. Having said that, I do think we need a better system of keeping track of who are on our committees, because every year we seem to have the same confusion about how people are reappointed and how people have been reached out to, how people get paid. Was just asked that question recently about planning commission, how people are paid. How is that submitted? So we need to come up with a solution for that because it's happens year after year. I think we need a master document that's shared between Val and other people at the town and maybe the select board of all our committees and who's serving and when, and have a single document that we can look at and update instead of having information in multiple places. I think it's getting very confusing. And we could also use that document to track in terms of what Joel spoke about before in other meetings about how people get paid and the meetings that they attended, things like that. So I think we should work on that.
I agree. Also, like I thought Peter Ryan was on with Dave Sharp and I as fence viewers, and Sharon told me no, he didn't get reappointed or something. And that's not is that a reappointment or is that a vote?
Yes.
That's a vote, isn't it?
And I mean, he sat in the last fence viewer thing we had about 2 years ago. So he didn't know.
Now we appoint the fence viewer and the weighers of coal and the measures of wood
Right.
and all of that.
Have you
So
ever had to do
back-
anything as a fence viewer there, Joel?
What's that?
Have you ever had to do anything as a fence viewer?
We've done 3 of them since I've been on.
So back to your motion,
Mhm.
is it to appoint to the end of March and then you'll just reappoint after town meeting day?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And that's retroactive. Just so that if they got dropped, it's
And I can update the town report and put those names back in and just replace the version that's on the website. If that's
Are they in the printed version?
No.
no.
And as I mentioned in an email last week, you can ask, put a little notation that this is corrected from the printed copy.
Yeah, we can fix that. And I'll go around and I'll just write their names in every printed version.
Just take a piece of.
Well, if you
sheet,
hurry,
a
if
new
you hurry,
sheet,
the
put
bulk
it
of
in
them
there,
are,
Ian.
if you hurry, the bulk of them are still at the town offices.
Right. The post office. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm
Did you
done,
have
Michelle.
anything else, or are you done?
No, now I'm done.
Speaker, did you have anything? I didn't get to hear you.
I am good.
Darla,
No, I don't have anything this evening.
Ian?
My thing actually was the thing I just talked about the list. And I'd be willing to create something like an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. Maybe Val and I can work on that just to have, because I did the town report anyway and have those. So I might as well just sort of translate what's in there into a document that we can use and track and who's there. And I don't know, Val, do you have your own system of doing that already?
So each March, I compile a table of the terms that are up for reappointment and indicate who's expressed interest in being reappointed, who we haven't heard back from, and who has said that they did not want to be reappointed. And then we just go down that list. So
Okay.
I think Sharon has been maintaining a list. I think part of it is improved communication so that she knows how her end of record keeping needs to be updated.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll shoot an email to her and you, and we can sort of figure out. I think it's just create a single document, a spreadsheet that we can have all that in, that everyone can access and we can update each year instead of creating unique lists. I think that'll be better, that there's just one place for that. Seems like it'll be, once people know the system, it should be easy to follow. And also keep a note of who's attending meetings so we can at least do the finances too.
Right. And also in those meetings where I've used that table and then the appointments were made, sometimes the specific appointments didn't get fully translated in the minutes, just the table was referenced, or other things were just referenced. And maybe I think the intention was to append the table to the minutes. So that can be improved too.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we have that doc that we know that, and I'm willing to even do that since I update the website when those changes are made, like it would be easy to update the website and then update that document or that spreadsheet to keep it current. And it is, it's obviously work to do that, but I think once we get something, it should just be easy for us to be able to access it and know oh, here's the master list. And that also helps me with updating the site too, because oftentimes I'm looking at the website to do that just to see, and sometimes that's off too, unfortunately. So that was one thing. And then one other thing, it was just I just did an update to the website just so the select board knows we sort of reached our maximum limit of space just with the amount of documents that we upload. And so I just purchased through by the town, just purchased an additional storage space for the website. So we have 15 gigabytes instead of 5. So we have plenty of space in terms of uploading. We just ran up against the limit, but I fixed that over the weekend.
Thank you. So the only thing I think I sent you an email, Val, about, I know you mentioned the Prince Street lights, that Du Bois is King is looking at that, but there's a light on the corner of Church Street and North Street that always seems to be on. It's a street light, but the past couple of days I've been there 10 o'clock in the morning, it's still on. And I don't know how the street lights work, if they just go off automatically or not, but.
That's right on the North Street side in front of Federated Church, isn't it?
Right, yeah.
I've seen it too.
Yeah. I was like, we're paying that electricity bill.
It's not metered. It's
not metered. Don't worry about it. Let it run.
Well,
Let it burn.
there's no reason for it to be on, but.
No,
but I said the street lights aren't metered. We pay a per light fixed cost.
Okay, then I guess I don't care.
If Bruce is on, I think in years past, they used to take the poll number, because the officers at night can see if a light's out, and they take the poll number and give it to Bruce, and then, or Sharon, they used to leave a note on Shirley's desk and say, call Green Mountain Power, poll number such and such, and the location is out.
It could be like the rheostat or whatever the photo, if that's how they work. I actually don't know what they
Or
use.
just a burn bulb.
Yeah. No. Okay. That was my only thing. And you haven't heard from Du Bois and King yet about the Prince Lane lights, have you?
No, we're still working that out. Oh, I did receive some information this afternoon, but nothing conclusive.
Okay.
They go out.
They've been out since the Main Street project was done, and it appears though somehow their circuitry got interfered with, and so we're trying to figure out how and where that might have happened, if that's the problem.
Clearly, I don't leave my house enough. At least not at night.
Well, a quick question for the board or Peter. Have you noticed just coming up Stony Hill, then the pavement changes from the new pavement, a few ripples there in front of the fire station, bumps and ripples?
not.
And I was wondering if there's any recall or recourse on that. They're pretty extensive. You can feel them. Doesn't feel like smooth pavement, that's for sure.
Well, I came up through that way and didn't pay any attention, but
You're probably going too fast.
It's in front of the fire station, or is it the transition between the?
It's about right about where the Nelson's driveway is, and then just almost where you turn to go into the fire station to the firefighter's lot. Right there, there's an awful ripple in there.
All right, I have to take a look at that.
If you have your car going east, you'll notice it.
Okay.
Except Michelle.
Well, obviously I wasn't paying attention. Okay. Let's see.
Oh, I had another question. Sorry.
Oh, good.
I had one. This came up. This is in terms of assigning chairs of boards. Is there a time when that generally happens? This is for all of our boards as well, just in case our current chairs don't know. Is there a certain time that happens, Val, like in May, or is it right after town meeting, or how do we generally do it?
I don't know all the board's protocols for an annual organizational meeting. For the select board, is typically right after town meeting.
Yeah, it's because not all the boards change chairs every year.
Right. There should be some form of organizational meeting because some membership does change.
I would think it would be after, if let's say we have 3 appointments to make on a couple of different boards, then after that you got some new members, and then you have a reorganizational meeting.
Okay.
I think the plan does theirs in May, and I don't know what goes into selecting the month. For the select board, it's logical that it would be in March because of elections.
Right. Yeah, I guess I was curious about it because for some, you have some members that might be up, and one of those members could be the chair. But if you don't know if a member is continuing, I mean, I guess we should know before March whether that member, or members are continuing, and then we wouldn't run into a conflict where we suddenly didn't have a chair if they no longer attended meetings because they were done. But I guess usually we know before that anyway. So then they would continue to be chair, or it would a couple months later. Well, I don't know if someone is the chair and then leaves, you'd have to do it before then, or I guess you wouldn't have a chair for that a couple meetings perhaps.
It would be up to the membership of that commission or committee or board to elect another chair.
Right.
We agree on who the chair is.
Right. And I guess you could go a couple meetings without the chair, and hopefully it would still be organized, and you could figure that out.
Select board does not have a role in selecting the chairs of the groups.
Oh yeah, no, I know that. I was just curious, since we often, when we send our list out asking people if they're continue want to run again, it's always sort of delayed time and messages that we get back, and so it often leads into terms that are perhaps outdated already. So that's why I was curious. But okay.
Okay, town administrator's report.
Well, Ian touched on one of the things I wanted to mention, that the technical difficulties I was having with the website turned out to be because we had maxed out the storage, and that's why I couldn't upload anything anymore. But I didn't know that, and so it was frustrating to try to to get through it. But so that is fixed, and that's good. Another thing that took me by surprise. you may recall that at the previous meeting, the select board authorized me to apply to or submit a letter of intent to the 1772 Foundation for repairs to Holly Hall. And we had this good discussion about some of the repairs that needed to be done. And I got all the way through putting the package together and thought it would look pretty good. And then I saw in not too obvious print that municipalities are not eligible to apply. So I just wanted to let you that the application could not be submitted because it turns out municipalities weren't eligible. So
who was it? Nonprofits then?
right.
And so it's passed. Like,
yes, it wasn't immediately obvious to me that that was the case, but oh well. But it was a good exercise to go through anyway. I'll be able to use it for another program, I'm sure.
Did we pass that? Like, could CORE help with that, or are we past our deadline?
No, it's passed.
Okay.
Now the fact that it's a municipally owned building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've seen some of those too, and it's I'm interested, of course, in it because they don't own a building. It's like the reverse of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So just wanted to let you know that did not happen.
Anything else for you, Val?
No, that'll do it.
Okay. Other business? Well, it is good to know, Val said that we came in under budget on the sidewalk. So that was nice, Main Street and Sidewalk project.
Right. So I want to wait until we get the final invoices for engineering services before we go through the exercise of tallying up which funding sources are going to pay for which parts of the project. But that is good news that it's going to be about $20,000 less than we thought.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Where was that savings from? Was it a particular area that we knew about, or it was something that was unexpected?
Well, one of the things we knew about, we negotiated early on when the project first started, and certain things, certain part of the scope was changed that was going to save the town $1,200 or $1,600. But then other things where, because the contractor gets paid for actual materials and products used, and so there might have been some areas where they overestimated what they needed and didn't need to spend or do as much, so we didn't get charged for it. And plus, there were some efficiencies because of the coordination with V-Trans. So I think that showed up.
Good. I mean, it's nice to hear that. It's nice that we spent the time to sort of go through and look at their budgets and see if we could, get some of those prices down. And also too, comparing it, because we knew we were looking at not in this partnership thing with the state, but we were going to do it independently. This is the town, and sort of knew some of that pricing. So that was kind of useful to sort of have that and then see their prices and know that we had a little bit of room to maybe sort of change some of those prices. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, and we also changed some of the features, like we eliminated the granite step, for example, in front of Kimball's.
True.
And
right.
That became concrete. So that was a big money saving right there.
Good.
Under other business, I just wanted to just point out that we did receive a letter from Green Mountain Engineering about the high lift pump analysis. And so V-Tooms has the marching orders to go ahead and make that change. And that's it. The others are just FYIs.
That's great.
Perfect. Okay, so we have to go into executive session, correct? For personnel?
Very briefly.
Very briefly, okay. I will make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters per 1 VSA section 313.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Wave your hand, whatever. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
Great.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye, Tasha.
Thank you.
Bye, Don.